Hey kids, gather around. I've got a cool story to share, kind of like the epic tales you see on social media, but this one's from the Bible. It's about a guy named Abraham. Imagine if God sent him a DM saying, "Hey Abraham, I want you to show your faith. Can you do something super tough for me?" Abraham was like, "Sure, God, you're my friend, I trust you," even though he had no idea what was coming. So God asked Abraham to take his son Isaac on a hike. Not just any hike, a mountain hike. And here's the twist, it was a test of faith. Now imagine Abraham's status update. Going on a mountain trip, big test ahead, #faith journey. But he didn't know how it would end. In the end, God was like, "Abraham, you proved your faith. No need to go through with the tough part, it was all a test." And Abraham was like, "Phew, that was intense." So what really happened in the Bible is slightly darker. After Abraham showed his faith, God made him an awesome promise. God told Abraham, "Your family will be as numerous as the stars in the sky." Can you imagine? That's like billions. And not just that. He said Abraham's family would be a blessing to the whole world. Like, everyone would get a piece of the happiness pie. Think about it. From one man's faith came a promise that would cover the earth. That's like going viral, but in the best possible way. So every time you look up at the stars, remember Abraham. It's a reminder that a little faith can lead to big promises. And that's not the end. This promise wasn't just for Abraham, it's for us too. We're all part of that big, starry family. Pretty cool, right? Just think each one of us can be a blessing just by sharing a bit of kindness. So what do you say? Shall we try to be a blessing to someone today? And kids, there's more to Abraham's story. After all those adventures, something incredible happened. Imagine being as old as your grandparents and finding out you're going to have a baby. That's what happened to Abraham and Sarah. God kept his word. Sarah gave birth to a baby boy, and they named him Isaac, which means he laughs. Because let's face it, it's kind of funny and miraculous. Abraham and Sarah were over the moon with joy. They threw a massive party, like the ones we have in church, but probably with more camels. This was a big deal, because Isaac was the child God promised, and through him, Abraham's family would become as numerous as the stars. So whenever you hear Isaac's story, remember it's a tale of hope and laughter. And who doesn't need a good laugh these days? Let's think of ways we can bring joy and laughter to our family and friends, just like Isaac's birth brought happiness to Abraham and Sarah. And that, my friends, shows us that no matter how impossible something seems, with faith, there's always a way. Who's up for making some joyful memories this week? Imagine this, kids. God comes up with a challenge for Abraham, a test of faith that's pretty intense. He tells Abraham, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region I will show you. There, you will offer him as a sacrifice." Just like that, out of the blue. Now, think about Abraham's reaction. He's confused, definitely sad, but above all, he's trusting. It's like he's caught in a whirlwind of emotions but decides to hold on to faith. So, Abraham gets up early in the morning, packs up, and takes Isaac along with some wood for the fire. Can you imagine the weight of that wood? Not just physically, but emotionally too. And as they're walking, Isaac asks, "Father, we have the wood and the fire, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" How heart-wrenching must that question have been for Abraham? Abraham responds, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." Even in that moment, Abraham's faith doesn't waver. He believes God has a plan. When they reach the place God had told him about, Abraham builds an altar, arranges the wood, and binds Isaac. Just as he's about to commit the act, an angel calls out to him, stopping him. The angel says, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." And just then, Abraham sees a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. God provided the sacrifice, just as Abraham had faith he would. This story, kids, is a powerful example of faith. Abraham trusted God completely, even when he didn't understand God's plan. And in the end, God kept his promise. Let's remember, like Abraham, to keep our faith even when things seem tough. Because sometimes God's plans for us are bigger than we can imagine. So we continue our journey with Abraham and Isaac. It's a bit like a road trip, but with a very serious purpose. Imagine Isaac carrying the wood on his back, while Abraham has the fire and the knife. The tension, the trust, it's palpable. Then Isaac breaks the silence. "Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham, with a heavy heart but unwavering faith, replies, "God will provide the lamb, my son." Can you feel the faith in his voice? This moment, kids, It's like a cliffhanger in a movie. You're left wondering, how will God provide? What's going to happen next? And it's here, at this very moment, that Abraham shows us what true faith is. It's not just believing when everything's going well, it's believing even when you can't see the way forward. So as they continue up the mountain, both father and son are walking into the unknown. But they're not alone. God is with them, guiding their steps. Let's take this story to heart. Sometimes we may not understand the path we're on. We may even be asked to trust when it seems impossible. But remember, like Abraham and Isaac, we're never alone. Faith is our compass and God's love is our constant guide. So, what do you think, kids? Can we be like Abraham, showing faith even when the path seems unclear? And there they were. At the moment of truth, Abraham, with a faith so strong, prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. But then, a voice from heaven, a divine intervention. The angel calls out, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy, do not do anything to him." Can you imagine the relief, the sheer astonishment? Abraham looks up and sees a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. God provided, just as he said, a testament to Abraham's unwavering faith. He unties Isaac and together they offer the ram as a sacrifice to God, a powerful moment of faith, obedience, and God's provision. And this, kids, is where we see the beauty of trusting in God's plan, even when it's beyond our understanding. God then reiterates his promise to Abraham, "Because you have done this, and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you." Imagine the joy in Abraham's heart. This story isn't just history, it's a reminder of the faithfulness God asks of us and the blessings that come from obedience. So, what can we learn from Abraham and Isaac? Maybe it's about being ready to give up our most treasured possessions, our plans, our desires, in faith, trusting that God will provide for us, just as he did for Abraham. And remember, it's not about the sacrifice itself, but the willingness to put God first above all else. That's the kind of faith that can move mountains, or at least change our hearts. So, let's take a moment to think about what we're holding on to tightly. What is our Isaac? Are we willing to trust God with it? So, right there, on the mountain, Abraham looked up and saw it. A ram caught by its horns in the thicket. It was as if God had left a surprise gift for him, right when he needed it most. Abraham quickly took the ram and offered it as a sacrifice instead of Isaac. Can you imagine the relief and gratitude he must have felt? It's like passing a really tough test you thought you'd fail. He named that place, "The Lord Will Provide," because in that moment, God did exactly that. It's a reminder that sometimes help comes just in the nick of time. This story isn't just about Abraham and Isaac. It's a lesson for all of us. It teaches us about trust, about faith, and about the unexpected ways God can provide for us. Think about it. How many times have we been worried about something, only to find out that the solution was right there in front of us? That's the ram in the thicket moment. So whenever you're facing a tough situation, remember Abraham's story. Look for your ram in the thicket. It might not be what you expect, but it's there. And let's not forget to be thankful, just like Abraham was. Gratitude can turn what we have into enough and more. So what do you say, kids? Shall we go out there and find our ram in the thicket? Who knows what surprises are waiting for us? And there it was, the moment of truth. But God's voice thundered from the heavens, "Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy." Imagine the wave of relief and surprise. God continued, "Because you have not withheld your son, I will surely bless you." Can you visualize the joy and awe in Abraham's heart? He promised Abraham blessings beyond count, descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Just let that sink in. Through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed. That's us, folks. We're part of this incredible promise. This story is a testament to the power of faith and obedience. Abraham trusted God fully, and in return, God fulfilled his promise in ways Abraham couldn't even imagine. So, what's our takeaway? It's about being open to God's plan even when it scares us, because who knows? The blessings could be as vast as the stars. Let's challenge ourselves to trust more deeply, to believe that, like Abraham, our faith can lead to great things not just for us but for the world. Remember, every starry night is a reminder of God's promise to Abraham and to each one of us. So next time you're unsure or afraid, think of Abraham. Let his story inspire you to trust in God's plan, even when the path isn't clear. And just like that, friends, we're all connected in this beautiful, starry family. Let's shine bright, shall we? And so, After that day on the mountain, Abraham and Isaac made their way back home. Can you imagine the conversations they had? The relief, the joy, the deeper faith. It's a beautiful reminder, isn't it? That after every test, every challenge, there's a return home, a promise remembered. God's faithfulness is like the sunrise, always there, even after the darkest night. Abraham's journey teaches us about trust, about believing in God's promise, even when we can't see the path ahead. It's a faith that says, I don't know how, but I know who. And think about Isaac, the laughter in their home again, the promise of countless descendants, a future filled with hope. It's like God saying, watch what I can do. This story isn't just a history lesson. It's a call to each of us, to trust, to hope, to believe in the goodness of God's plans for us, to remember his promises, especially when we're climbing our own mountains. So let's carry this story with us. Let it remind us that we're part of something much bigger, that each of us is a star in the sky of God's promise to Abraham. And just like Abraham and Isaac, we'll find our way home, to the place where promises are remembered and faith is renewed, where every challenge faced with faith becomes a testimony of God's provision and love. So, what do you say? Shall we look for ways to trust more deeply, to remember God's promises, and to share the laughter and joy of our faith with those around us?